Okay, hello. This is my name is Matti Hjelm, and I'm the new SoapUI product owner. And I want to welcome you to this exciting webinar. It's exciting because it's my first time moderating any webinar at all, and it's also one of my first duties as the new product owner for SoapUI. And with me here today are Eric.
Hello.
He's the developer of, not the developer, yeah, he's the developer of SoapUI.
Thank you, now I'm the developer.
Yeah. And Henrik Olsson, product owner and the developer of LoadUI. And before we start this off, I want to tell you about our first user conference that we are planning right now. It will take place in Stockholm, the 23rd of May. And we have invited some really super interesting guest speakers. And also some of us at SmartBear will be doing some talks. And you can read more about this and get more information on our website, soapui.org.
Is it secret which ones are going to talk?
No.
It's not. So one guy from Spotify?
Yeah,
that's what I remember.
Yeah, test manager from Spotify.
Yeah, that's cool.
We'll put some info, it's not there yet, but in a few
days.
Okay.
So look at soapui.org to see all the details about it. So I think we should begin. Or is there anything more I should say?
No, let's begin.
Okay.
So
the theme today is Groovy Scripting as last time.
Maybe we should do a quick agenda.
Yeah.
Here. So you'll start with? I'm going to start with showing you how to use Groovy Scripting in mock services. We say it's very powerful actually in SoapUI. And then I'll take on Groovy Scripting in LoadUI, creating a simple custom component. And then I'll finish it off with a script assertion when the ordinary assertions aren't enough for your need. There's always the powerful script assertion to the rescue. Alright, so should we get started? And then we have a Q&A if we got time left. Yeah, of course, sure. If you still if we still have your interest by then, you're free to answer questions or ask questions, and we are hopefully going to answer them.
And you can also ask some questions during the seminar, or this webinar, I mean, with the hashtag UIQA.
Yeah. Right, so let's get started. We have many things to show you. So, as I said, I'm going to start by showing mock service scripting and how that works. Well, this is kind of an advanced webinar, I guess. So I will assume that you have like basic knowledge of SoapUI and the main components here. So bear with me if you need some explanation of how things work. But anyways, so in this case we have this.
Do you want to show the screen?
Yeah, sorry. Please do. Are we good? Great. Okay, so here we have the currency converter service, which is hosted by Web Service X. We used this the last time, and it's also frequent use in our docs. And the currency converter is basically a web service for converting currencies. So, for instance, if we want to convert Swedish crowns to euros, we'll do something like this. We'll see if it works. Yeah, it does. They had some downtime actually on this service, so that's also a good need for mock services if your ordinary service is down. But this is how it works. So it's very basic. So let's create a mock service for this service, and then you just have to go to the service and click generate mock service. And we'll start this immediately. So a mock service is something that like mimics a real service when you don't want to test the real service. Yeah, exactly. It's basically a fake service.
So if you don't, maybe if you like developing the tests and the actual service in parallel, you can develop your test against the mock.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can use mock services in various ways. Either you do it, for instance, if, as I said, if you have an existing service and it's down or it's expensible to call it, then you can create a mock service and use that instead.
Yeah.
Or you can actually create a mock service even before you created the actual service or you're developing the service. So then you can use it in kind of a test-driven fashion.
Okay.
So there are a lot of applications for the mock service actually.
Cool.
So the basic setup of a mock service in SoapUI is that it will create a response from the whistle as a mock response. So here we have the result of the conversion with an exclamation mark here because it of course doesn't know what the value should be here. So I mean, normally you would put some static value here, right? Like 100 or something like that. And then you'll redirect your request to that mock service and see what happens. Yeah, and then you get 100 back. But I mean, sometimes this isn't enough. Let's say that you actually want different results depending on what request you're making, kind of like how it works in the real service. Then, I mean, it's kind of awkward to have to change this all the time.
So without scripting, all you can get is like static results.
Yeah, static results basically.
Yeah.
Let's stop this for now, and I'll show you how you can do this. So if you go to the mock service operation, which is this only have one conversion rate, there is this dispatch scheme. And this is pretty interesting actually. I won't go through this, but you can find a lot of documentation about this on our website. Here you can have a lot of ways to dispatch requests. You can use like XPath or XQuery or random. You can, like, if you want to have random responses, you can do it like that. Or you can do it with Groovy Scripting, which is what I want to show you today. So let's begin. Sorry, I will admit that I won't be able to remember all the code from the top of my head, so I have a cheat sheet here besides me. Well, so as I said, the basic way to provide dynamic values here is to, instead of having this static response, we can actually put an property expansion here. So let's content like that, right? So let's create a property called content, like this, instead of that static XML. So then if we go back here, then you have this context variable that's available to you. That's basically a container for stuff. And one of this stuff is the property that we created here. So then we can do context.content equals my content, like that. So let's try to run this and see what happens. Well, and now it's blank, and that's not a very, it's quite understandable actually, because this isn't SOAP request that we get back, right? This is just an HTML answer with my content as the body.
It's not even HTML, it's just HTTP.
Yeah,
right?
sorry, I mean HTTP.
Yeah,
you're right. HTTP.
So it's not rendered by the XML or outline.
No, you're right.
Yeah, okay.
So this is basically how you set the payload of your response. Okay, so yeah, obviously this isn't enough. This is as bad as pasting it into that editor, right? So now we want to do it a bit more dynamic, and well, then you have the question of like where should you get your responses from? And I guess you can come up with a bunch of different ways. You can have a database, or you can have some kind of file system structure, or some other data source thing going on. In my example, I will use plain files. So in the same folder here as the in the same folder as the project I'm using now, and in a subfolder called responses, I have one XML file here, which is basically this response that we saw earlier, but it is in a file. So let's try to read the content from that file and provide that as the payload instead.
Mm-hmm.
So then we going to do something like this. So first we need to have some parser for parsing the actual XML, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a built-in class in Groovy.
So you don't have to import it or something.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
And then we go into we want to have some kind of variable for the content, which will actually be the XML object that we want to put in this content while after we have read the file. So let's call that response context or something. Content. Yes, and now let's assign this to
the content of the file.
yeah, exactly, the content of the file.
So here comes the magic part.
Here comes the magic part. So this will be something, right? And here's where we use the XML parser.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take the parser, call the parse method, and here's where the file path to this file goes. And actually, I mean, we could of course have the full path, like the we could have the full path to the file in the in this method, but rather it's feasible to have like a relative path, right?
Yep.
So it works on different different platforms. So there, then we have something in SoapUI called the Groovy Utils, which could be used for creating the relative path to the project file. Then we can use that one, because I know that in that folder I have this response folder, which I have the files in, so I can use this as a base.
Yep.
So then we have to do some boilerplate here to get that actual Groovy Utils class. So this is an SoapUI defined, SoapUI specific class, which I were using for various kinds of Groovy utilities. And here,
it needs
sorry.
the context, yeah.
Yeah, you need to pass the context here, so it knows like where to start. Yeah, so now when we have initialized this utils class, we can call the project path. So there.
Okay.
So that will use that will basically be the base folder.
Yep.
And then we can just type /responses/ the file itself is called 100 response.xml.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's basically it. The only thing we have to do now, because this is actually an XML object, is that we have to serialize this to a string, because this content is a string.
So the XML parser .parse that returned not a string but some kind of XML object.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It parses the file and it creates an XML object, and then you can, I mean, you could use that object to do a bunch of other stuff and insert nodes and remove
look
sturs
for
and
nodes.
look for nodes.
Yeah. Okay.
But in this file we just want to create it and we just want to serialize it directly to a string.
Yep.
So in order to do that, we need another class, I believe. Yeah, you're right. So here we need to import this Groovy class called XML util. So that's an Groovy specific util. Groovy specific class for XML utility methods.
Yep.
So then, and this is a static method. Then you have this serialize method, which takes a Groovy object and serializes it to a string. So yeah, so if this works, we're expecting to see the contents of this file in the response.
Yep.
Right.
We should also say that if you're quite not following, we will put this up on our website. Like
Definitely.
tomorrow or something.
Yeah, I think it's up already actually on GitHub. But we will provide you with all the examples, so don't feel any rush to.
Yeah,
to
the
write
code is on
things
GitHub,
down.
but also the video. This video will be up on our website.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So there is no rush for anything really. Right. So let's restart the mock service to be sure that it runs the latest code here. Okay, so let's cross our fingers that this works on the first attempt. Yeah, and it did.
Cool.
So now we get the response here, right?
So you could, in theory, you could have a whole directory of sample responses, and then you could just iterate through them, or take round robin fashion or random.
Definitely, you can exactly. Now you're starting to see the power of this and the capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and extend this a bit. So, I mean, this is still very static, right? We're just reading the file here. So we probably want to. Okay. So let's say that we have another request here. So let's start by actually adding this, or we can do it like this, I guess. It doesn't really matter. Let's do it like this. Let's add this request to an test case.
Okay.
And call this seek to euro. So that works, yeah, great. So let's create another one. Or basically, we can actually, you can do this a lot of it. You can clone this. There's a nice feature of SoapUI as well. So let's create an seek to something that doesn't exist, foo.
And SDK, that's the Swedish crown currency, right?
Yeah, sorry. I'm probably too yeah. That's
so,
right.
So we're converting the Swedish currency to euro.
Yeah, you're right. We are. And in this case, I mean, we could provide something else here. I mean, normally when you call this the real service, this would fail. Pretty sure. But now it just returns this dummy response all the time, right?
Yeah. So we want the mock service to be able to handle both of these cases.
Yeah, exactly. So let's create a case where it gets a request that's not supposed to be getting this answer. So you could do that in also various ways. basically, okay, so we get a note here that we have to speed up a bit. So I'll try to do that. So basically, we want to create a way to know if this request contains this SEK to euro conversion or not. Well, you could do that in a various way as well, but probably the most powerful way is to use XPath expressions, because this is an XML request, right?
We have a question here.
Yeah, sure.
It's Frankie wondering if you couldn't read the content of the file as a string instead of parsing and serializing.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess we could. That's a good question. I kind of had this XML parser thingamajiggy on the top of my head when I think of XML, but you probably could do that and skip the whole parsing. And
in this very simple case, it wouldn't make sense to. It's a lot of boilerplate in this simple case, but in other cases, when you want to modify the XML, it's useful to have the XML parser.
Oh yeah, exactly. As we said, maybe you want to modify requests, but you're totally right. That's probably an easier way to do this. Okay, so continuing down the line here. So let's say that we want to have an SoapUI fault that's thrown if we get a request which is not supposed to be handled.
Mm-hmm.
So then I have this file called SoapUI fault response, which is a SoapUI fault.
Yeah.
Basically, which says just could not find currency code.
Sure.
So then, as I said previously, we need some kind of dispatching logic to know, like, if the request contains SEK and euro.
Yeah, because that's the only case we have handled.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we will throw in a fault.
Sure.
And as I said, XML XPath is the way to go usually. So here we also have to create a bit of a boilerplate. So I'm going to try to do that as quickly as possible. So first we have to create something called the request the XML Holder, which is also an SoapUI specific object. Request. And now I'm using this Groovy Utils class again. And here's where you put your. It kind of works like the parser. Here's where you put the object that you want to get the XML objects for. And in this case, we want to use the request, right? Because there's where we want to extract the content. So here's how you do that. We take the request and then we call this get request content, which basically provides the content of the request as an XML object. Yeah, great. So now we just want to extract those the from and to currency, right? So first we have to do one small thing here, or actually we can do it like this. I mean, generally when you want to create XPaths, if you're not like an XPath hacker, you or like me, you never remember the syntax. You probably want to have some way to generate the XPath expression. You can then do it in a numbers way. I tend to create an assertion test step in SoapUI Pro and go to just shows the request or the test step. Go to request. Then you have this XPath match assertion we can use, and it's basically this little menu which I'm looking for. So here you can just create. Here you get the actual request in this nice dialog. So you can just click on the element you like that, and you see the XPath is generated here for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's copy and paste that. Let's remove this step for now because that's not really needed. It was just the XPath that we were looking for.
Yes.
So let's see, where were we? Here somewhere, yeah. Oh, darn it! Did I? Of course, I missed that.
You missed a copy.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it.
Darn it! Darn it! Darn it! Okay, so let's do this again quickly. Okay, let's see now. Copy. Let's save that for now, just to make sure. Where are we? Here. Yeah. Paste. Like that. So make this into comments for now. Yeah, so it's basically this export assertion that we want to create, and what this does is basically refers to this from currency value. So then we have this on the request holder, we have something called declare namespace, right?
Yep.
And the namespace to be declared is web, because that's the alias that's used here in the XML extraction.
Yeah.
So this is basically a nice way to be able to use aliases, because that's usually very cumbersome when you're doing export assertion that you have, or export expression in general, that you have these aliases that you have to define. Yeah. No. Like that, right?
Yep.
Okay, so now we have declared the namespace. What we want to do now is to extract the actual value here.
Yep.
So there we have something called get node value, which is basically where you put your XPath.
And the XPath we already have from, we already got it from the assertion test step.
Yeah, exactly. So this was generated for us, and as I said, this should give us the from currency node. So then we can create a variable to assign the results of this.
So this will be a string, and it will contain SEK if that's the from currency.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we also want the to currency, right?
We definitely want that, but let's try to log this just to make sure that this works before we try the other one. That's a common good practice, that you use the logger for debugging while you're developing stuff. So let's restart the service to make sure. Let's call this again and see what happens. Then we the results should end up in the script log, which is used for Groovy Scripting. Yeah, and there we have it, SEK, right?
Yep. Cool.
So that's great, because then we know that the value is extracted correctly, and we can safely use this from. So to get the to currency, that's very easy, right? Because that's basically, well, if you look at the request here, it's basically the same, but the element is called the to currency instead of from. So we should be able to just copy paste that and change this to to.
And the variable as well.
And the variable as well. Right. So now we have the to, and we have the from currency. So all we have to do now is to create a simple if statement that uses this one, right?
Yeah.
So let's do if. Let's copy this, because I'm a very bad speller, so I'll rely on.
So if the from currency equals SEK and the to currency equals Euro,
right?
and that's the only case we support currently. So then we return, or then we set the response content to our file, to our valid response file.
Yes. So that's the base case, and the response content was defined up here, if you remember. So that's fine for me using it like that.
Yeah. And otherwise.
Yeah, and then we must have an else case, right?
Yeah. And that's when we return the the error file that you showed us?
Definitely, and that's also very easy because we already defined one way to use one file. We can basically copy and paste this as well. I just changed the name of the file here to soap fault, I believe it was. Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's try. Let's restart this and see if it works. Then it's done. Let's remove this baby for now. And yeah, we could try to run the whole test case actually here. And see here, if we go to the first one, Euro, we got 100 back. And if we go to the next request,
So
foo,
100 was from the file. That was what.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was the
Yeah, 100 response. Yeah,
exactly the
of course.
working case.
Yeah.
So here, hopefully, we'll get the fault here, and we did.
Cool.
So yeah, that's a very simple way to create a dispatcher, and also because we're a bit out of time, or it's time for you, Henrik. I won't have time to show you, but you can also use this for like replicating headers. If you have a header coming in a request and you want to send it back, you can easily do it. And yeah, we have examples on GitHub how to do that.
So I guess from here, when you have all this boilerplate in place, you have imported all the XML parsers, and then it's pretty easy to extend it from here.
Yeah.
To just implement the business logic,
Mm.
because very little here is business logic, but from here on you can just add a lot of ifs and buts and add more XML files and just copy paste.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you could also extract this boilerplate code until to like script library or something like that if you don't want to have it in line in SoapUI. So, so you could basically just have this if and else thing going on. Right.
Okay, time for me to show some LoadUI Groovy scripting, which we haven't touched upon at all. You had a Groovy webinar a few weeks ago, a month ago or something?
Yeah, a month ago.
Yeah, and then you showed just SoapUI stuff. Now, since we're getting a little bit more advanced in this webinar, I'm going to show you how you can use Groovy in LoadUI. LoadUI, if you don't know already, is SoapUI's kind of sister product. It's open source as well. Actually, in this case, I'm using the open source version, and I'll be using Groovy to create my own component. So let's have a look at how we can do that. I'm dragging out a project to create a new project, and I open it immediately. If you're not used to LoadUI, you might find it a bit different graphically than SoapUI. Okay, so just a really quick introduction. LoadUI is made for load testing stuff, load testing web services primarily, and one of the strongest use cases is to leverage your existing SoapUI functional test cases by running them in LoadUI, because they're kind of integrated, both of these products. And you define your load testing logic by adding these components from this component toolbar. So here I dragged out a component to the canvas, to the grid here, called fixed rate. We don't need to know really what it does. I just wanted to show you a few components, and that you can connect them together like this. And that's how LoadUI works. And then you can, of course, see statistics, get a different view. You can distribute your test to in the cloud, and etc. etc. So let's start by to create our own component.
Yay!
Yay! So I'm going to create a component in this category here, called the flow category. in the flow category is generally used to pass messages through and direct them or modify the messages. Not they don't run any requests. Anyway, we have, as you can see, LoadUI is bundled with 4 different flow components, and I'm going to add a 5th one. So I'm going to start with this really simple template. So this is my file. These are just comments. So I said that the name of the component should be data source, and it should belong to this category flow, and it should, as soon as it's created, it should just print hello LoadUI into our
So this
terminal.
name and category annotation, this is something that's defined in LoadUI. LoadUI know how to interpret it.
Yeah, this is LoadUI specific, so the Groovy doesn't know about it. It's LoadUI. So this was the file. I'm going to copy it now. Copy, and then here I have in my LoadUI installation folder. We have a subdirectory called script components. So I'll go in there. Here I see all the components that are bundled with LoadUI. And now I want to paste my component into this folder. So I paste the Groovy file. Yes, I'm an administrator. There we go. Let's go back to LoadUI and open the flow category. And there we have it. We have our first component. It doesn't do much, but if we drag it out and create one of them, create an instance of our new component, and have a look in the terminal, we see that it says here, hello LoadUI. So we have our first working component. It's not very useful at this point, but that's what I'm planning to make it. So what I want to create here is a data source component similar to the data source test step in SoapUI. So I wanted to be able to read comma-separated values files, so CSV files. I get into that more in a bit. So let's open our source code for the component to start hacking. Here we have it. Okay, so what I want to do is to parse, as I said, parse comma-separated value files. And I know a good library for doing that, which is called Groovy CSV. So I do like this, dependency, and this is like the path to this library. This is a public, free, open source library. You can find it on Maven Central and GitHub, and basically if you can find it the library online, and if it's free, then you can, do this. You don't have to download it yourself. You just have to say like, I want let me just type this like this. So I want to, from this kind of library or package, I want this component or this framework version 1. That's what I want. And
this is basically taking advantage of the built-in dependency handling of Groovy, right?
Yeah, this is using something called
Great. What was it called?
It's called grapes.
Grapes.
In Groovy.
Kind of similar to Maven, I believe, if you're familiar with Maven.
But you don't really need to know that to make this work.
But it's good to know that you can you can have a third-party libraries in your component.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be Groovy libraries. It can be any any Java compatible library.
Yeah.
So most of the libraries out there are Java, so that's a really good advantage a big advantage for Groovy.
Yeah, as most of you know, probably Groovy is very Java compatible.
Yeah. So I don't want it to print out hello LoadUI anymore. That doesn't make sense for a data source component. So I get this dependency. So it basically downloads a jar in a temporary folder and uses it, which makes it possible for me to import the class that I want to use to do the heavy lifting, to actually parse the CSV, and then for the simple case now, I'll just define my comma separated values in the actual script, but later on I'll show you how to read a file, a text file.
So you're using some kind of interesting syntax here. You have 3 citation marks. That's Groovy.
I have 3 quotation marks, and that's a Groovy way of saying I want
a string to it could contain line breaks, right?
Yeah, so I can just write the line breaks like this. And
normally in Java, strings have to be one-liners.
Yeah,
so you have to do concatenation and stuff like if you want line breaks and stuff.
Otherwise, if I would use just single quotation marks, I would have to do this thing to get 2 line breaks, for example.
Escape,
yeah, which is kind of ugly. So I'm just doing this. So, as you might have figured out by now, I'm entering an example data set of smartphones. Let's save that. I need to be administrator.
Oh no.
To be able to save here. So let's close this. Let's copy it and then close.
Open it as an admin.
Yeah, and then open it as administrator. Yeah, this is the file. So now we just have to. Yeah, here we go. We should be able to save it now. Yeah, and we are. Okay, so now we have our library, and we have the input, which is this. So now I need to start using the library, and I made this component today. So I looked up on the website of this library how to use it. So I'm not going to go through the details of how it's used and why it's used a certain way, but you should be able to grasp like the gist of what I'm doing here.
I guess it's kind of similar to that XML parser.
Yeah, I have an external XML parser, I have a CSV parser, and I say parse this, and then I guess to get some kind of iterator which I can loop through to get all the stuff I want. So I'll do a while loop to use this. Here we go. To use this iterator. So CSV Iterator. While we have a next line. So obviously this is a set of lines. We have 1 line, 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines, and we have column names here. So while we have a new line, we want to do something with that line. And what do we want to do? Well, we want to extract the line first of all, using this iterator. So if we have next, we can call next, and we get the line.
Yeah.
And then for each of these, and the line contains a set of values. And for each of those, we want to print them out. So it here it's a shortcut in Groovy that you can use for if you're iterating over something with each. So this should print out all the lines. So let's see what it does. And it does. So when I update and save this file, LoadUI will automatically detect that, and it knows it has a data source component already created, so it will initialize that component since I updated code. And here you see this is what I wanted to happen.
So are you running LoadUI from the terminal here, or?
Yeah, I'm running LoadUI from the terminal to get easier access to the error messages or to the output. I could also use the system log. Actually, I can't. I think it depends on how you start LoadUI. But if you want to just use LoadUI as a regular user, it's best to start from the start menu. But if you want to get serious with custom component creation, I'd recommend it to start the LoadUI bat file, which is called LoadUI test.bat, because then you get all of these
printouts.
Yeah, printouts, and we have of course the documentation for this on the website. You can go to LoadUI.org and then go to Developers Corner and then Custom Components, and all of this will be written there. So let's continue. This is pretty neat, but not really what we wanted for a data source. We wanted to do something more. Yes. So there's something. So far, we're just almost just doing regular Groovy stuff that could be done in any Groovy environment. It doesn't have to be LoadUI. But now we're getting into some LoadUI specifics. We have something called OnMessage, and this is a closure, or call it a function if you want to, that will be called. This OnMessage, the code that's in here, will be called when we get a message. So, like this. And by getting a message, I mean another component outputting messages into this incoming connector here. So all the top connectors are incoming connectors, all the bottom ones are outgoing connectors. So so as soon as we get a message or a virtual user coming in here, a user comes in here, and it's generated there, comes in here, then this function or closure will be invoked.
So it's basically an event handler.
Yeah.
For when the message arrives.
Yeah, in SoapUI this would probably be called event handler. And then we invoke this closure is invoked with a set of parameters. And the only one we are interested in now is the message one. So we get the actual message that got in. Okay, so let's see how let's do this. Let's remove that print and copy this into, whoops, this into here. The formatting got a bit ugly, so let's fix it. Okay, so what I did now was I copied in my old code, my old while loop here, into the OnMessage event handler. So now this should not only happen once when we instantiate the component, this should happen each time we get a message.
Yeah.
So let's see if that works. We get a lot of error messages here, but that's because I'm saving a lot of times when the component is not actually ready. So that's cool. Let's run it. see what we get.
But I mean, it's very dynamic that you can write code and it's instantly get updated in LoadUI. So.
Yeah, and now we see that it prints out when it got its first message.
Yeah.
But it didn't print out when it got more messages, because we send in messages at a rate of 1 message per second here.
Yeah.
It didn't print out anything else, but that's because the list is now empty.
Mm-hmm.
It read through it all. So, well, too bad. At least we know it works. The OnMessage event handler was definitely called. So yeah, I want to continue from here to do something more advanced. I would like it to not do this while loop, to not print out the whole thing with each message, with each incoming message. I wanted to iterate through this list to print out this first, then this on the next message, and then this on the next message, and so on. So each virtual user coming in here, this is a virtual user generator, will get a different set of data attached to it. Okay, so let us see how we can do that.
Yeah.
And this is a bit more advanced.
Sorry.
Yep. So instead of a while loop, we'll have a if. So if we have next, then we'll do next, and then we'll print it. Okay, so let's start by doing that. And then we play. Let's see. And you see the messages coming up here. Print, print, print. So now it got printed once per second. That's what we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But a component in LoadUI that merely prints stuff to the terminal, to this blue thing, isn't very useful. We want it to attach these things, these values to the incoming users, to the virtual users, or to the message if you want to put it that way. So we can do that by doing this. So here we print the entire value, but the value is actually a combination of a key and an index. This is once again internals of this CSV library that I'm using, so I won't get into details there. But now I can extend my message that I got in because the message is essentially a hash map.
Mm-hmm.
So I can just extend it with any value I want. And this is how I would do it. And then I need to be able to send the message out again.
Oh yeah.
Because there's no use of just modifying the message.
Hmm.
And to do that, I need to have an output. I don't have an output connector.
No.
I can do that by doing this. And I create an outputting connector called output, and then I have a send. We have a send method that we can use.
Could you have multiple outputs?
Yeah, we can have any number of outputs.
Okay.
We just have to give them a name so we can refer to them later.
Yeah.
This should work.
So this will basically send that modify message to that output.
Yeah. Let's see if we can get nicer colors. Yeah, like that. So we might have to delete the component and recreate it. Oh, it was because okay. So let's create the component again. So now we have an output and an input. We didn't
Mm.
have that before. And there's a component called table log in LoadUI, which is used mainly for debugging purposes, so we can see what the messages looks like when
Mhm.
they get in. Okay, so let's start it. See what happens. Not much. We have an error. No. Where do we have the error? A missing method.
It's kind of cryptic.
Yeah.
But should we check the
We should go back
code
to
and if you missed something there? So, doing live coding has its disadvantages. But let's see, line here, right? No? Did you miss the to call the columns there?
yes.
Yeah.
So this is once again some internals of this framework that I'm using, but we need to access the columns, the list of columns.
Oh yeah.
So and now it started working immediately. So but
That's
but
cool.
but we missed a few things, so
Mhm.
we should take it from the start.
Okay.
Okay, so things are getting through,
Yeah.
but we're not quite seeing what we want yet. Let's try to recreate our component so you get a clean start.
Mm.
Yeah, here we go.
Oh wow.
So now we're getting, until we run out of
Yeah.
of
That's where we
data
run out of
data entries. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
we get what we wanted here.
Looks really good.
Yes.
Mhm.
So and this could be used for a SoapUI runner. So you could have these parameters as incoming values to a SoapUI test case if you want it, and it would set the test case properties.
Basically like a data source.
Yeah. So you can this could now be used instead of SoapUI data source if you want to. But it's kind of the final thing I wanted to do here is it's not very flexible to have this hard-coded string. I wanted to be able to load a file.
Yeah.
And I don't know about the time. I think we're running late.
a bit.
Yes. So I'll do this really quick. Yeah. So let's see. Well, I know that I will use this a lot now, this parse CSV. So I'll make it a closure so I can reuse it. Now I can just call that as a function anytime. I also want a property because we want to be able to load a file. So just as SoapUI has properties, LoadUI also has properties, and I want to create a new one. I want to call it input file. So we can select an input file, and it's a file. The class is file. And if I do this, if I just type these curly braces after, that means that's the onReplace handler. So if this property is replaced, if the value of it is replaced.
Yeah.
So each time that's replaced, I want to re-parse the file.
That's basically equivalent to property expansion in SoapUI, right? Or
not really. This is on replace. So when this it listens to the value of the property, and as soon as someone sets the property value to anything else, then we run this.
All right.
So it's an on replace handler.
Okay.
And then now we need to define this. Since it's now inside a closure, we need to define it like you did. You wrote something different, but now we should, and now we need some. Now we just need some, and we need to call this when you start, and we also need some. Finally, we need some means to select the file, some interface, and up until now, the interface of this component is very simple. It's nothing, basically. It's just a
So
purple
now
blob.
you're talking about like the actual user interface of the component.
Yes.
Huh.
So we can maybe do this so you can see how the component changes when I'm changing the layout in real time. So here I want to show up the value of a property, and the property should be the one I just created called input file, and I want the label. I want it to have a label called input file, so the user knows what this is for. Let's press save, and there we go. Now we have an input file, and now we can browse. So let's do that. And I have an example file here of all the US presidents, the names and the last names of them. So open it, and let's go back to LoadUI to see what happens if I run it. I should probably have removed my US president.
Yeah.
No, my smartphone, sorry.
Otherwise, yes.
Yes. So let's remove that. And we shouldn't use that anymore. We should use
The file, right?
Yeah, we should use the file. So the file we called input file. So we need to refer to that in here. In the parser. The parser should now use the input file instead of the string, the hard-coded string.
Yeah.
So in Groovy it's very simple. You just do this. So input file is a property. We want the value of the property, and the value is a file. And in Groovy we can just type file.txt and we're done. So I saved it, so it's automatically updated. So now we get all the US presidents attached to our virtual users. And that concludes my demo of how to create a custom LoadUI component.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Really good.
So I should maybe show the US presidents thing as well, the actual input file that I'm using here. So it's on my desktop. It looks like this.
Did you compile this yourself, or have you cheated?
I actually compiled it myself from Wikipedia.
Okay, so
You don't know all the US components, right?
No.
great. Yeah, so nice demo, and I really like this interactive. I mean, as a developer, it's really nice to have this instant feedback. When you develop your script, you can actually see those things happening. So in LoadUI, you don't have to restart it every time.
Yeah, there's no compilation, there's no restart. Yeah, it's really, really rapid application development.
All right, so
over to Eric again.
Over to me again. Now I know we're running a bit out of time, so I will try to be as quick as possible. So bear with me. We will have this recorded later on, so yeah, no worries. Yeah, okay, so now I'm gonna quickly show you how to do the script assertions, right?
That's a new feature for SoapUI 4.5, script assertion, I believe.
I'm not quite sure about that actually, when it was introduced.
I'm pretty sure it was in 4.5.
Alright, so what I've done here is that I created an sample little request here to this good old currency converter again. So let's do the classic Swedish crowns to euros again. We can try to use the actual service this time. Hopefully it's up and running. Yeah, it is. Right. Okay, so one way, I mean, you could assert on almost everything using script assertion. But the common case is that you want to assert the headers, for instance, the HTTP headers. because that's not really reachable by XPath assertions, for instance, because it only operates on the payload, and that goes for most of the assertions actually. So it should be headers is a common case for that. Let's stop this mock service for now. It doesn't do us any good. Yeah, so to create a script assertion, you just go into the assertions dialog here, choose script assertion. Then you have this Groovy script editor, which you can use. So here,
So we still seem to have those, like, script is invoked with, it's still invoked with context.
We have the log as always. We have a context. We have a message exchange variable, which is what I'm going to use now. So message exchange, that's basically a request response pair that's created whenever we do an run a test step.
Yep.
So it contains the request and the response.
Okay.
So in this case, I want to extract the response headers. So if we look at this response that we got back, actually, we can do that right away. We see here that we have a bunch of headers here, right? So for instance, one of these headers is the content type, and here you have application SOAP XML. So let's say that we want to make sure that the content type of the response is actually application SOAP XML. But you could probably do that in some other way, but one way, just to show you an example, is to use a script assertion. So let's start by defining a variable that will contain this this header. So the first thing we have to do here is to use the message exchange object, and on that there's this response headers method that you can use. Which is basically an map. So if you use the response headers collection and we use a content type as key, we hope to get the value of the content type header. So let's try to let's begin with just logging this. See what happens.
To verify that we got what we wanted.
Yeah. And yeah, as we see here, we have the whole header here, right?
Yeah. And but we just want to assert a part of it.
Exactly. We just care about this application part. We don't care about the char sets here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, one way to do this is just to use some simple contains. So, and in the the way you create your assertion, the script assertions, is by using this assert keyword, which is familiar if you have used Java before or Groovy. So here we can just take the actual header, and as I said, this actually is a list, so it can contain many values. So, but in this case, it's only we only care about the first one. So then you can do something like that. Then you can use this as simple string contains. Contains. Then you have application. Like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then we can remove this.
Is that it?
That's it.
Wow.
That's everything that you have to do to assert on an header, and of course you can make this much more dynamic and intelligent. But that's basically it. And I mean, you have it's not just the headers. You have access to everything here. You can access the status codes. You can access yeah, basically everything that's accessible in the HTTP objects.
So if you change this contains to blah 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 and click OK, then it will fail.
Yeah, try it. Hopefully it will. Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a quick way to use the script assertion. And I guess you have the full imagination of thinking of a lot of other cases which you can use this for.
That was really quick.
That was quick. And I have one more surprise for you, actually. I have one other thing I want to show you. So our dear friend Ole, Ole, the very creator of SoapUI, he has written a really nice blog article here on the SmartBear blog, which called Exploring SoapUI's Groovy Side. And what he has done here is that he has created a plugin for the Groovy console. Now the Groovy console is an built-in interactive shell, which is really nice to have if you want to do a quick write quick scripts and just run it.
And by built-in, you mean it's built into the Groovy distribution?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It comes with a Groovy distribution.
Uh-huh.
Right. Yeah, so what Ole has done here is created a plugin which uses the context of SoapUI, so you can access the SoapUI objects from within this Groovy console. So if you want to read more, we will provide you with the links to that blog article. So now I'm just going to show you quickly how it works. So you go here to the workspace, you fire up the Groovy console like that, and now I'm gonna cheat a little bit. Yeah. So as I said, you have access to the workspace variable, for instance. So here we can use the print line instead of the log, because we're in the Groovy environment. So we can start by just printing out this workspace to see that it works. So in Groovy console there is this Control R for running the test, script. So you'll see.
So this is really Hacksaw style. You can debug or do basically anything. You're not restricted anymore to those kind of script assertion containers or mock script containers.
No, exactly. And I mean, because one problem with SoapUI is that the Groovy scripts they're executed on events in most of the times. But there are there are cases where you don't want to execute Groovy on an event, but actually maybe you want to just start SoapUI and want to interact with SoapUI directly, just not wait for an event to happen. So this is a nice way to do that. It's this is kind of common actually to have this interactive shell. I know, like a lot of other languages using it, like Ruby, or I think Scala has something as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So in this case, Henrik is showing you how to run a test case from this Groovy console. So here we're using this get project by name method, which is it basically looks up. It looks for a project here, and this is the mock service project that I created earlier. So that's giving us the project, and on that project we can find a test suite, which I named test suite. And finally, on that test suite we're going to look for a test case, which I named test case.
You're so creative, Eric.
Yeah.
With your naming.
Yeah. Thank you. I like to keep it simple. What can I say? All right. So that's it. We have the test case here, and now we have this magical, or it's not really magical, but it's a powerful method called run, which actually runs the test case. And it's provided with two parameters. I won't get into details what this does, so you can just ignore them for now. It's null and false. Yeah, so let's start by running this. So now we expect that we should be able to run this test case from Groovy, right? And it was the mock service scripting thingamajiggy. So this one, right? So we expect to be able to run this, and we also must make sure to fire up that mock service, otherwise we will get into trouble. Okay, so let's see. Cross your fingers. Or yeah, did you see that?
So it actually shows us running in the GUI as well.
Yeah, that's the cool about it, that it actually shows.
I thought it would just run in the in the core background or something.
No, this is very interactive. So I mean, and you could of course use this for I mean, to do it even more powerful. So if you want to take this to the extreme, you could write something like this: workspace.
Okay, so workspace, we get to workspace.
Project list. I mean, this is. I probably don't have time to explain exactly what this does.
I can
this
comment.
Yeah, you can probably comment what this does if you know.
Okay, so Eric gets the workspace. He gets the list of the projects, and then for each project, he's getting the list of test suites, and he flattens those lists together so it's just one big list of test suites. And then he does the same for the test cases. So now we have a flat list of all the test cases in the workspace, and we want to run all the test cases. I haven't seen this code before.
Great. Okay, so project list, let's see now. Test suite list, test case list. Right, so should we try this?
Yes.
Okay, so what we expect to happen here is that we should be able to run every test case in all projects, right, in the workspace.
Yep.
So let's have this side by side to see that if it actually works. So first try, let's see.
So just 2 test cases in this case. Yeah.
Ah, it worked, but it failed. But that was because we actually made something we did something with assertion here, right?
Yeah, I failed
you
your
did the blah
assertion.
blah 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 thing here.
Yeah.
So let's do application, right? I think that was
yeah, I
it.
think that was it.
Okay, so let's try again.
You need to say okay. This is okay, assertion.
Okay, sorry. I'm totally lost here. Okay, here we go again. Last time. Yay!
Yeah.
It worked.
Okay, and that concludes all our demos for today.
Yeah, it does.
So Q&A.
Q&A.
Only 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Wow. we had some questions.
Yeah, first we have one question on Twitter.
Right. Shoot.
Where was it? Can you access the SoapUI Groovy API from something like Eclipse?
Yeah, definitely. You can do that in numerous ways. For instance, you can have a script library, which I showed you in the previous webinar, and you can have that script library run from Eclipse, and I mean SoapUI is just it's a Java API, so you can just have the jar inside your Eclipse project and access it there,
and get the auto completion and everything.
We have some nice links on the website how to, like, for instance, run the SoapUI from JUnit.
We have another
We
question.
can provide some links there.
There's a question that was written before before we started. How to make Groovy scripts easier to develop and support?
Yeah, kind of the same goes there. That I would recommend that if you are putting a lot of script into SoapUI, you should probably think about extracting parts of it into libraries to make it more modular, to not keep too much Groovy within SoapUI, but to have them in actually a separate Groovy file, because then it's much easier to maintain, and you, as I said, you can run it in an...
And that's a script library feature.
Yeah, that's a...
Right?
You mean a pro feature? Or,
yeah, it's a pro feature. And
yeah,
isn't it called script library?
Yeah, it's called script library.
So if you Google for script library and SoapUI, you'll find it. Yeah.
Yes.
And then we have a question about autocomplete.
Oh yeah, that
so
ever recurring question.
I guess it's about auto completion of code.
Yeah.
Yeah, Groovy code.
Yeah, I mean this is I totally understand the need for this. Every time I write Groovy in SoapUI, I also feel like there should really be some kind of completion here going on. And yeah, what can we say? We know this is a really highly requested feature, and yeah, we hopefully will look into it somewhere in the future.
Yeah. We have a question from Olga in the chat. Can you test Ajax applications with LoadUI using Groovy? Well, you can. You can do. It's always like the question. The answer when someone asks something about scripting, the answer is always yes, you can, but it depends on how much you want to script. So not really. Not in terms of web recording and click. You just want to, if you just want to record in Firefox or Chrome and make LoadUI redo that AX stuff, that's not possible. But LoadUI is targeted more towards actual APIs, so web services, like the underlying SOAP or REST calls that the AX framework is doing. So what you can test with LoadUI definitely is the underlying calls, so the REST calls and SOAP calls, but not the JavaScript parts of AX. More questions?
Yeah, I don't know. Do we have anything on the chat, or should we take something here?
We have async request and response testing. Asynchronous request and response testing. So asynchronous means that it's not you send a request and you got to respond and you wait and you get the response back. It's more like you send a request and you might get things back every now and then, right? And we have some support for that in SoapUI, and it's called what's it called? The mock
response.
Yeah, mock response test step. So you should look that up. We have it in our documentation.
No, exactly. What else? Advantages of Groovy Scripting. Yeah, that's maybe a bit hard to answer on the top. I mean, I would say that the basic advantage of Groovy is that it is very dynamic and it's very easy to get started with, right?
Yeah.
And it's also, because it is dynamic, you can, as I show you can write scripts and just interpret them on the fly. You don't have to compile anything like that.
One way to learn Groovy, if you're a beginner in Groovy, then you should download this Groovy developer environment and then just play around in this Groovy console without SoapUI. Sorry for this in this case, but you should really start from the basics. Follow the Hello World example and then take it into SoapUI.
Oh yeah.
And then we have a question here. As a beginner, I've always been interested in how scripts can be used to provide different items on each iteration of a LoadUI pass. Can you give me details? So this question was obviously asked before I showed exactly how to do that with the data source component.
You're right. That's answered, I guess.
How do I call a JRuby component from LoadUI? You can call it from using Groovy. It's as long as it's JRuby or Jython or anything else that's like Java bytecode, you can just use Groovy to load it. It's as simple as that. You just put the jar or whatever in the LoadUI./ext folder, and then you can use it. Like just import.
Yeah,
whatever.
and that kind of goes for SoapUI as well. Like it's really no limit to what you can do with Groovy. In that case, that you in terms of like integrating with third-party libraries and all that. It's like, as you say, Henrik, it's just add the libraries and start interacting.
Yeah. Here's another question: how can data-driven tests be automated with SoapUI using Groovy? You can, as I said before, I won't lie to you. You can do anything in Groovy. You can do data-driven testing using Groovy, but you would have to spend a lot of time doing it. And once you get it working, if you get it working, if you got the expertise to get it working, you'd to for example read an XLS file or read from a database or CSV file. Then in your Groovy scripts, then you would have to, if your test case fails at some point, you would never know, you would never be sure if it's your Groovy data source coding that's wrong, or your test case that's wrong, or the web service that's wrong that you're testing, the system under test. And you'd also have, if you're not really skilled, you'd have problems with concurrency. So when you're doing multiple requests or load testing, it will be a real hassle to get it right with synchronization of variables and stuff like that. So you can try. I have seen the code how SoapUI implements it, like the data sources in SoapUI Pro. So I wouldn't recommend anyone to. I don't think it's a good business decision to try to do it on your own instead of buying SoapUI Pro, to be honest.
Right. So and they also ask for integration with Jenkins, which is a continuous integration environment, and for those cases we recommend our Maven plugin, which is Maven, as I said, is an build the system, I guess, or something like that. That you for Java. So if you're a Java shop, I would definitely recommend you to have a look at the Maven plugin for SoapUI to be able to run your test automatically in Jenkins or any other continuous integration tool.
Is it possible to run just a selection of test steps in a test case without temporarily disabling the test steps?
Yeah, that's basically what we show there in the Groovy console, right?
Yeah.
Definitely, you can target the single test case.
Yeah, we're getting some questions in the chat for links to the forum. I don't think we have time to look at it. We've got 2 minutes left.
We could take a question from the last webinar we had.
Okay.
It was, will learning Groovy Scripting allow me to get women?
Yeah.
Better?
Oh yeah, we
Maybe you should answer that this time, Henrik. What do you say?
I imagined you spent a lot of time answering that last time. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there. So I think like roughly half of my girlfriends I got through Groovy Scripting.
Mm-hmm.
But the older ones back in the days I got mostly through COBOL.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And if you're into mature women, you should definitely give COBOL a go as well.
Yeah. I didn't really think about that, but
yeah. But Groovy is more like if you want to get cool
younger,
hipster kind of girls. Yeah.
So it really depends, like what's your target audience here.
Yep. Definitely.
Okay. I think we have to stop there because it's the time is up.
Yep.
But I just have one thing to say. Last words. Thank you for all the things I've shown.
Yeah,
it's
thank you
really
for your time
and just want to say something about this book that we got some questions on. It's possible to buy from Amazon and Bocus, and you can buy the Kindle version also. That weighs nothing. But we during the conference, which will be on the 23rd of May, actually here in this office, we will be giving away some free copies of it also. And that concludes everything, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we publish this, we will make sure to have links to all the stuff we're referring to, website, documentation. We'll publish links to the user conference, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And we will have the examples that we show you available.
Yeah, all the code.
All the code.
Yeah.
Out there for you.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.